Hey, I'm Eddie, and thanks for joining us. Today, the Formworks Building dome kit showed up, so I'm going to show you guys what all the pieces are and how it works. Come on with me. So what we have here is the center ring. This is the hub, so to speak. It'll be lifted 25 feet in the air, placed on top of a platform up there, and then all of the curved beams will attach to it. So this center ring is actually open, and the dome, there'll be a cupola built on top of this. And what the purpose of that is to allow light as well as air to get in and filter into the back of the dome, because the back wall of our dome is actually underground. Okay, so what we have here is the base bracket. The I-beam actually fits in here, and there's holes to bolt this in, and that's what holds the bottom of the bracket. And there's similar holes at the top where the two of them come together or where it bolts into the hub. Okay, so here we have the beams. There's actually two different beams. There are longer beams and shorter beams. The shorter beams will bolt into that center hub that I just showed you. The longer beams actually bolt into themselves. And this is because there's two sections to this house. The first section towards the front is what's known as a barrel section. It's simply a curved arch. The back of the house is the dome section, where it curves in two different directions. So these beams, basically, we're going to use a crane of some sorts to lift them up. There'll be a guy at the bottom and a guy up top, and we'll bolt them all together. Okay, so here we have the horizontal beams that'll be placed about 9 feet up in the air, and they actually bolt between the curved I-beams to hold them all together, and they also act as the support for the second floor. The second floor floor joists, which are made of wood, will actually rest on top of these. These come in two lengths because the dome section, the distance between the I-beams is longer than it is between the barrel section. So that's why we have two different lengths on these. Okay, here we have the metal tabs that are designed to hold the rebar that have been welded to the I-beams. Basically, the rebar will fit in here. We'll take a hammer and bend this tab over, and that secures the horizontal pieces of rebar to the curved I-beam. Okay, these plastic blue and red caps that you see sticking out of the concrete is basically short pieces of PVC, and what they're for is for putting the vertical pieces of rebar in. We stuff the rebar right through this. It's a pretty thin plastic, and it embeds it down inside, and what it does, it just prevents the rebar from kind of poking out. This doesn't actually have any major structural. It's really just for ease of installation, and they're spaced out evenly and properly to make sure that you lay the vertical pieces where they're supposed to go. All right, so my cameraman just asked me a legitimate question. He's like, well, is this a kit? It is a kit. These kits are actually built to order. Formworks Building, when you buy your house and you're ready for your kit, they order it. Mine came from a company in Arizona that did all the fabrication. Every kit's going to be different because there's literally an infinite number of possible combinations. I'm using a 50-foot half dome with two barrel sections. And the reason I say two barrel sections is because each barrel section is about 6 to 7 feet. So mine is a half dome with two barrel sections, and it's a 50-foot span from one side to the other. But Formworks also makes domes that are 40 feet across. They make them 32. They make some smaller sections that can come in, I believe it's 10, 12. There's a whole multitude. If you go to their website, formworksbuilding.com, you can see a bunch of examples of what they're doing and the different sizes and kits. I happen to like the 50-footer because it gives you a lot of volume of space, and you have plenty of room on the second floor. When you get into some of the smaller domes, the walls kind of curve in. Now, even on the 50-footer, the walls on the second floor will curve in, and you only lose a couple feet next to the wall. Basically, what we did with this particular house is we designed it so that the beds will be in, and the furniture will be placed in such a way that the curvature of the dome won't actually be an issue. It'll be more of an architectural feature. Okay, so what we have here is the west side retaining wall. And the reason it zigzags was because the original design that the engineers came back with, the wall has to be 23 feet tall. And their original calculations said that the wall would end up being 3 feet thick if it was a flat wall. So I came up with the idea of zigzagging the wall so that the wall itself is more self-supporting, and instead of needing to be a 3-foot thick wall, it only ends up needing to be a foot thick at the base, and we can actually make it less thick than that the higher we go. For ease of build, we're not going to do that. We're just going to make it a foot thick the whole way up from top to bottom. I'm standing on about 60 or 70 yards of concrete right here, if not more. The base and footer of this is pretty massive and it's pretty huge because it's got to support all that earth and we don't want it to tip over. So I'm standing in one of the niches that's formed by this zigzag wall. And what we're going to do with these is, before we shotcrete, we're going to actually run electrical conduit in here and put outlets and lights here. And what that'll do is we can make this into kind of a nice outdoor seating area as opposed to just an area by the wall. We can turn this big, huge concrete wall into its own sort of architectural and decorative feature.